is likely the least known symbiote on our list, but just one look at it screams frightening. So Kroba is an entity that comes from the pits of darkness, naturally. It bonded with a scientist and drives him mad, causing him to go on a rampage of New York, which when you really think about it is unsurprisingly common in the Marvel universe, it seems. It's also one of the only symbiote characters to appear in the comics that doesn't have some sort of familial connection to Venom, and isn't one of his offspring, first appearing in Venom's Seed of Darkness in 1997. But despite its appearance, it went down in a pretty lackluster way, being defeated by Eddie Brock thanks to the flash on his camera.
1000 Spawn, first appearing in Venom vs. Carnage #2 in 2004. So when Carnage was giving birth to Toxin, Carnage initially wanted to destroy the Spawn, because once Toxin was finally born, Carnage was too weak by the process to even kill it. Venom, on the other hand, wanted to raise the Spawn and train it, and even named it Toxin after itself. What a nice name. New York City cop Pat Mulligan then became the host of the symbiote. So Patrick actually left his wife and kid because this thing was too unpredictable and powerful. Good call, Pat. So Venom and Carnage saw this police officer infused with Toxin and knew that it would most likely end up being a hero. So with his abilities to shapeshift, unlimited webbing, healing factor, tracking specialties, this guy can even hide himself in the blood of his host. Ew! They both obviously tried to kill it and of course failed. Toxin stands out from the rest of the symbiotes because, like I said earlier, he's spawn number 1000, he's special. But why? So every 1000 generations, the symbiote is born with what's called genetic memory breakdown. And since he was abandoned at a young age, he never really acted like a true symbiote. During a heated battle with Venom and Carnage, Toxin is aided by the web slinger himself, Spider-Man, who's somewhere on my chest. After the unlikely duo defeats Venom and Carnage, Spider-Man gives them the cool dad talk and encourages them to just be better. I like Toxin a lot actually, he reminds me of like a bratty child. He broke Patrick's laptop after he referred to Toxin as a monster in an online blog, but he tried to make up for it by stealing a bag of laptops. What a sweetheart. What a gentle man. Toxin is the second hero in the symbiote family right after Hybrid.
Before becoming Captain Marvel and before the Venom symbiote, Carol was known as Miss Marvel. During the events of Siege, where Norman Osborn was leading an assault on Asgard, where the Venom symbiote had been just snatching up Asgardians and consuming them, in order to quell this destruction, both Miss Marvel and Spider-Man confronted Venom, who at the time was under the control of Mac Gargan. Spidey questioned him about his recent horrendous actions, which included starting a gang war and eating squirrels. I'm not sure which is worse. In the middle of battle, Miss Marvel lends the assist by literally yanking Mac out of the symbiote, for which it did not take kindly to. In response, the Venom symbiote merged with her, forcing Carol to run amok through the city.
And if you are a huge symbiote fan, then you will already know how powerful the symbiotes can be when they are merged to any Hulks. However, Amadeus recently got slightly depowered, sad face, when it comes to his Hulk form, making him less of a tank than he was previously. But one thing that he has maintained since even his first introduction is his brilliant intellect. He is known as one of the smartest people in the world within the Marvel Universe, and is a capable hacker. One thing I would like to see is an intelligent symbiote merge with him and create like an even more super genius. This is something that we have yet to really see explored in Marvel. Most symbiotes seem more focused on brawn than brain, but with Amadeus you get both, and I'd really love to somehow see that utilized in symbiote form. Maybe Amadeus could also use his hacking skills to make the symbiote go digital again, like we saw in Carnage Unleashed, when both Carnage and Venom ended up entering computers and fighting on the online web. Cyber symbiote, make it happen. Oh my gosh, the symbiote could be named Cyber. Oh my gosh, please make this happen for us, Marvel, please. Marvel's not watching, they don't care what I think. It's fine.
The world's best and most expensive mercenary around. Thanks to its artificially enhanced physiology, he is able to think 9 times faster than a normal human, meaning he is always at least 10 steps ahead of you, and he also possesses superhuman levels of strength, speed, stamina, and durability. Now that, coupled with his mastery of every form of martial art and weaponry, brings a whole new meaning to the term gun for hire. Known probably best as the longtime enemy of the Teen Titans, S.H.I.E.L.D was also a founding member of Lex Luthor's Secret Society of Villains, and has also been seen working with the League of Assassins. If Deathstroke were to ever get a symbiote, he would likely be paired with Scorn due to it being a techno-hybrid symbiote. Scorn possesses the ability to fuse itself with technology, including weaponry, and it can manipulate its code to do whatever it pleases with it. Not only that, but it can transform itself into any piece of machinery, meaning S.H.I.E.L.D would never have to pull out another weapon again. He could just have Scorn transform into it for him. Deathstroke has the mental capabilities to keep any symbiote at bay, and it would just be a very valuable ally on the battlefield, and would make him a viable threat to metahumans and supers alike. Give Deathstroke's story a read for yourself, starting with 1980's New Teen Titans #2, and Scorn in their first appearance in 2011's Carnage Carnage number 4.
Of course, I'm going to start with Eddie Brock. I mean, this dude made his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 252. Venom was initially attached to Peter Parker, obviously, hence everything, aka Spider-Man. So before that, it even bonded with Deadpool briefly. God, I would pay to see that on the big screen. Still would be R-rated. Has to be at that point. It didn't last very long though, so eventually I moved on and found none other than Eddie Brock. Cue Topher Grace cringe. After being part of the Kree-Skrull War, he's actually an anti-hero, despite how he may look. And the teeth. Teeth give away a lot. I was excited to see him in Spider-Man 3, as most of you probably were, because Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best superhero movies, hands down. Fight me. I don't know. So once I heard about the villains in Spider-Man 3, I was pumped. Why? I mean, so once Spider-Man released the symbiote and it bonded to him, he became stronger. He got unlimited webbing, regeneration. He realized that this suit is literally alive. So after Eddie Brock got fired from the Daily Globe, after Spider-Man called him out, oops, Eddie Brock, who also had cancer, got pretty pissed. And as you saw in Spider-Man 3, he eventually bonded with the symbiote at the Bell Tower. Then it was all downhill from there. We are Venom, two become one. So naturally they both wanted to go and try to go after Spider-Man. Imagine having a fully sentient being merge with you. I think I'd be on board. Hey, touch this and you'll be Spider-Man. Okay, done, no problem, no questions asked. The symbiote is able to cling on to other beings and bond with other superpowers. Its weaknesses are heat and loud vibrations. So like I said, it can bond with other superpowers or other superheroes, like the Green Goblin, which I'll save for later.
Carnage is the hybrid prosthesis created from Carnage that combines both technology and the symbiote. Now in Carnage Volume 1 Issue 4, Carnage is taken back to Earth after breaking out of the Raft prison by an American industrialist by the name of Michael Hall, who then locks up Cletus Cassidy and uses the symbiote to create new suits of armor. Carnage breaks out of its containment, bonds with a psychiatrist named Tanis Knives, but then things get a little weird. Carnage leaves his own offspring within Knives' prosthetic arm. Knives is horrified by this, cuts her arm off, but then later would rebond with it, becoming Scorn. Scorn is essentially a techno-hybrid, a machine symbiote who is able to fuse itself with different kinds of technology and mechanical weapons, which most definitely came in handy, no pun intended.
Also known as Agent Venom, there's nothing scarier than imagining what would happen if your high school bully bonded with a symbiote. Usually the Venom symbiote's violent nature turns superheroes into villains, however in this case Thompson's military background tamed it with discipline. That being said, the scariest part of this Venom symbiote is that even Flash had a difficult time keeping the symbiote under control. After losing his legs while serving his country, Thompson had volunteered to bond with the symbiote as part of a program called Project Rebirth 2.0. Not only did the symbiote regrow his lost limbs, it also elevated his powers to that of Spider-Man's, which is a step up from being an ex-soldier bound to a wheelchair.
Luke is near indestructible and has a pretty solid healing factor, but he's not quite the strongest of heroes. Mix in a little symbiote and we might see that change. I would argue that symbiote enhanced Cage would maybe even be able to take on the Hulk in a battle. After all, he has defeated tough villains like the Rhino with just one punch, and he's already pretty strong. Just, he could be stronger. And I'd like to see the wild side that a symbiote also might bring out in him, as they tend to be pretty chaotic usually. Actually, imagine an entire team of defenders and symbiotes. Luke Cage and the rest of the gang. Now that would be something.
The half-sister and half-fairy of the Mystic King Arthur. Thanks to her elven heritage, she is immortal, and she seemed to use that time well because she spent a majority of her early life mastering the mystic arts, and with this mastery she has been shown to be able to warp reality, time travel, resurrect the dead, and just a whole lot more. Like most other villains, she is a thorn in the side of the Avengers, as well as Spider-Woman and Jessica Drew, who have all on separate occasions done their best to stop her from taking over the world. The symbiote that I think would be best suited for LaFay is the Agony symbiote, another one of the 5 symbiotes that the Life Foundation forced Venom to spawn. Agony is a bit of a special case when it comes to the symbiotes because it was actually modified by the US government to give its users a serious boost in physical strength, which would make Morgan Le Fay more of a physical threat as opposed to just a magical one. Agony also possesses the ability to spit acid, which can burn through almost anything, and it can even absorb any chemicals thrown its way, which was shown when it absorbed Spider-Man's artificial webbing. Just try and picture the immortal and all-powerful magic user that can not only spit acid and attack you from long range, but can cave in your skull if you get too close. That's pretty scary if you ask me, and I would love to see it someday. If you're not familiar with her, take a look at Morgan Le Fay for yourself in her first appearance in 1955's Black Knight #1, and while you're at it, check out Agony in 1993's Venom Lethal Protector #4.
Once the Venom symbiote was taken by the Life Foundation, it was forced to create new spawns from its Clintar seeds. So these spawns were meant for these mercenaries to become super soldiers. Not a great plan. So as you can probably guess from the name itself, hybrid is a mix of 4 of these different Life Foundation symbiotes combined. And those 4 are being Riot, Phage, Lasher, and Agony. All these symbiotes combined sounds cool, but I mean, what do? Well, Scream uses this living tendril hair to choke out enemies. Cool. Agony can spit acid, burning through pretty much everything. Lasher uses tentacles coming out of his back. And Phage forms blade-like weapons. So, what a combo. And in comes Scott Washington, a guard at the supervillain prison, The Vault. So he watched as these 4 symbiotes escaped their containment and they all temporarily bonded with him. Wow, okay, what a shift. So after these symbiotes fused with Scott, not only did he regain his ability to walk, nice, but he also discovered that they were not a threat and they were in fact in a lot of pain during all these experiments they were doing. Scott listened to his heart and set them free. Now, it's important to note that Scott Washington actually has a lot of anger inside of him. While normally the symbiotes would encourage the host to commit crimes and lash out, do it! Hybrid does the opposite. How lovely is that? Later on, while Washington is patrolling the streets, Eddie Brock actually paralyzed him with an electric shock, followed by a final bullet, killing Scott Washington in Venom number 4, issue 19. I'd watch this movie. I really hope we get to see Hybrid on the big screen soon, in a different way. I mean, all these voices swirling around Scott's head, that would be epic. You have to pick a good actor to do it though. So many voices, so little time.
This is by far not only our favorite, but also one of the scariest times that a superhero wore the Venom symbiote. Sure, he's not that much of a superhero technically, but he has done some good things. I mean, we gotta give it up for the Red Hulk. That's why he's our #1 spot. And during a storyline known as the Circle of 4, the Red Hulk ended up taking the Venom symbiote from Flash Thompson as well as the Spirit of Vengeance, creating this cocktail of destruction unlike anything we've ever seen before. It is by far one of the most intimidating versions of Venom ever, and rightfully so. There's a lot of evil all mixed together, but how else was he supposed to take on Blackheart and his minions? I'm so surprised they just didn't end it with Blackheart seeing the monstrosity and just waving a white flag like, nope, we're done. Alright, it's all good. You win. Please don't kill me.
Awesome would it be to see Batman get a symbiote? He would actually get bona fide superpowers of his own, right? I know we'd need a DC/Marvel crossover for this to happen, but wait, what? He's already had one. DC is symbiotes? What? It's true, DC has their own symbiotes. While they are not as neatly organized as Marvel's entire race from Clintar or the wannabe Marvel symbiote race of the Poisons, symbiotes do exist in DC and they are crazy. Batman actually found himself temporarily bonded to one known as Black Rock in a fight against Supes. It granted him enhanced strength, endurance, allowed him to fly, and ultimately helped him to defeat Superman. I don't know about you, but I think that would be super cool if Batman was this powerful all the time. He has run into Carnage in a Marvel/DC crossover where he and Spider-Man teamed up to take down the Joker and Cletus, but he has yet to run into Venom, and that is a symbiote I'd love to see him try on. Knowing how disciplined Batman is, I bet he'd actually have insane control over a Clintar symbiote.
The former girlfriend and sidekick to the Joker that we all know and love. Once a criminal psychologist turned flamboyant criminal menace, her intentions are typically good, but her methods often betray her insanity, and that leads to some messy situations. Now, the original incarnation of Harley Quinn on New Earth was partnered with Poison Ivy a lot, and was actually injected with Poison Ivy's serum, and that gave her some superhuman abilities, toxic immunity, and the ability to even breathe underwater. That, coupled with her genius level intellect and mastery of gymnastics and hand-to-hand combat, made her a formidable foe for everyone and everything that came her way. If Harley were to be coupled with any symbiote, it would have to be the Scream symbiote, another of the 5 symbiotes that spawned from Venom at the Life Foundation. Scream's ability to extend her hair-like tendrils to attack and ensnare her enemies would turn Harley's pigtails from a fashion statement into a deadly weapon. I mean, just imagine her with her signature mallet in one pigtail and pop gun in the other while still being able to jump around and defend herself. That is absolutely wild, and I would love to see it. Check out Harley Quinn in her first comic book appearance in 1999's Batman Harley Quinn, and Scream in 1993's Venom Lethal Protector number 4.
What do you get when you mix a mentally unstable serial killer with the offspring of the Venom symbiote? Trouble. You get trouble. That's right, making his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 359, Carnage is a symbiote that is the offspring of Venom. Its host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. Cletus was sharing the same prison cell as Eddie Brock in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 344. So while Cletus was planning on stabbing Eddie Brock, just going red wedding on him, the Venom symbiote comes in to the rescue, saves Brock. So after Brock is reunited with the Venom symbiote and breaks out, a little piece of the symbiotic material attaches itself to Cletus, thus becoming Carnage. Carnage is terrifying. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him put in some work in the Venom sequel, titled Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The director has said that just because the main villain is Carnage does not mean that it's R-rated. This has to be R-rated. We're looking forward to seeing him for that reason. That's like making Deadpool not R-rated. Just do it and do it right. Bam. Set to release summer 2021. Look forward to it. So, the malevolent Cletus Cassidy is being portrayed by Woody Harrelson, who is awesome, as you've seen him in anything. I also feel like Michael C. Hall would be good as Cletus. I don't know. Maybe it's the whole Dexter thing. He's got the vibe. Who knows? Are you looking forward to seeing Carnage on the big screen? Let us know in the comments.
Grendel, compared to some of the other characters on this list, hasn't had a whole lot of panel time, but that doesn't make Grendel any less terrifying. So this creature is a dragon symbiote that was a servant of Null. More on Null later. Grendel would take on Eddie Brock's Venom and Miles Morales' Spider-Man in the 2018 Venom run, Volume 4. Grendel has the blood of multiple civilizations on his, I guess, teeth, not really hands. It ravaged societies during the earlier medieval period, including Norse soldiers, which caused Thor to trap it inside of a glacier in response. Flash forward to 1966. S.H.I.E.L.D. discovers Grendel and ran many an experiment on it, which ultimately led to a bunch of destruction by Grendel in Vietnam during the war. It would later be incapacitated and put to sleep until it was awakened by Null and unleashed on New York. See, there's a trend there with these symbiotes going after New York. To make matters worse, this symbiote dragon isn't affected by sonic waves or heat, and rather was defeated thanks to Thor's lightning and Spider-Man's Venom Blast, which caused it to destabilize and unravel into a giant amorphous mass. Man, I hate when I unravel into a giant amorphous mass. Not a good day.
Armed with her super strength and flight powers, Jessica Jones is already a pretty intimidating presence, especially when Kristen Ritter is portraying her armed with a bunch of attitude. Now imagine her with a symbiote. Interrogations would go so much smoother, and I have a feeling that Jessica would be a great person for a symbiote to embody, in terms of how unruly they can be. I feel like her sometimes no-nonsense attitude would allow her to keep her symbiote in check. Symbiote would be like, blah! She'd be like, don't do that. I'm Jessica Jones, listen to me.
Ronan Sionis, better known as his criminal alias Black Mask, is a longtime enemy of Batman and one of the most prominent figures in Gotham City's organized crime. Ronan's own poor business sense led to a series of decisions that largely destroyed his own reputation, and sought revenge on those he perceived to be responsible for his own misfortunes, namely Bruce Wayne and his company. Roman created the identity of the crime lord named Black Mask, as well as the criminal organization known as the False Face Society, in order to wreak havoc on Gotham City. If Black Mask were to bond with any symbiote, I feel like it would be the Riot symbiote, which is one of the 5 symbiotes that was forcibly spawned from Venom by the Life Foundation. Riot's brutal nature and ability to create blunt weapons like hammers and maces, coupled with the Black Mask's terrifying ability of interrogation and marksmanship, would make him a truly scary villain because he wouldn't simply just be a gun-wielding hitman anymore. The two could run his crime empire through fear alone, and they would really benefit from one another's company. Black Mask would quickly jump to being one of Batman's most fierce adversaries. Interested in checking out both of these characters? Well, check out Black Mask in his first appearance in 1985's Batman number 386, and Riot in 1993's Venom Lethal Protector number 4.
So Green Goblin plus Carnage equals holy shit. Appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man 798, Norman Osborn steals the Carnage symbiote, and after that, well, all hell breaks loose. So thankfully Peter Parker injected the serum into the Green Goblin, infused with nanites, just to help him, chill out. No more powers, no more crazy stuff. Shh, quiet time, that's it. Norman used the Carnage symbiote to eject all the nanites, but then that ended up creating this monster mash becoming, you guessed it, the Red Goblin. The rare weaknesses that the symbiote does have went away once the two merged. That's right, if you think you can use sound or fire to level this guy, think again. Green Goblin was fine with those things, so now the Carnage symbiote isn't even worried about it. Even the bombs that he throws are like these Carnage bombs that can bite you. They're all fused together. It's terrifying. Terrifying.
Mania, also known as Maniac in later years, is one of the most vicious symbiotes to date. A clone of Venom, specifically cloned from Venom's tongue. This symbiote was initially created as a means of exterminating all life on Earth, but it refused to bond with any of the hosts that it was exposed to. Instead of bonding fully, Mania would bond and then brutally maul and murder each one of these potential hosts for fun. At one point, it comes into contact with a prospective host who is a prison inmate, who manages to reject the symbiote. So, how does Mania react? By bonding with an elderly mental patient and then taunting the inmate about how he was raped in prison, and then proceeded to reenact the assault before murdering him. All in all, pretty f***ed up character, yeah? Mania would go on to mass murder a bunch of individuals before a new host by the name of Lee Price took over the symbiote and then reshaped it, calling themselves Maniac instead.
Well, Venom already one time went after Franklin Richards, aiming to be merged with the strongest being around him, with the most naive and moldable mind. He was rejected rejected by the insanely powerful mutant. Naive and moldable mind my butt, even when Franklin is a little boy. With Scarlet Witch though, I could see her welcoming a symbiote at some point. Her powers would make her symbiote self pretty unstoppable, and it would be cool to see her lose control and then just like end up raging while merged with one of the Clintar symbiotes. Could you imagine Carnage and Scarlet Witch together? Now that would be terrifying. Maybe we could call her Blood Witch. Someone link some artwork there. I want some artwork. Find me Blood Witch online. DeviantArt, help me out.
The sentient psionic entity created from the consciousness of two of the most powerful mutants around, Charles Xavier and Magneto. During a battle between the X-Men and Acolytes, Charles had finally had enough with his enemy's methods and took things into his own hands. He used his telepathic powers to shut down Magneto's mind, rendering him catatonic. However, during this psionic contact, Magneto's energy, grief, and lust for vengeance entered Charles' consciousness, combining itself with every suppressed negative feeling the Professor had ever felt. This aggression resulted in a separate personality within Professor Xavier and was the birth of Onslaught. With all the powers of Professor X and Magneto combined, plus a few thrown in there for some added fun, like the ability to traverse the astral plane, Onslaught caused some serious trouble for basically everyone and everything in its way. Take all of that menacing power and combine it with the Lasher symbiote and you've got an interesting and terrifying villain. Lasher is the last of the Venom spawn and it has two things that set it apart from its siblings. It can create multiple tendrils from its back for attacking and trapping, and it can attach itself to more than one host at a time. Generally, a human or something and then an animal, meaning it can attack from all sides. So the already all-powerful Onslaught would be capable of blindsiding you with a pincer attack. Like, yes, please, I would love to see that, but no thank you, that sounds absolutely terrifying.
While the Hulk has been bonded to the Venom symbiote before, She-Hulk has never got a turn to try on the suit. Not only do I think She-Hulk could make a symbiote suit look good, but I feel like she would also be a powerhouse with one. She's already proven how insanely strong she is by herself. Imagine her with even more power. Not only that, but imagine what that storyline could be like. Jennifer Walters often already struggles with figuring out exactly who she wants to be. This could be a cool opportunity to see that explored even more when she gets to bond with the symbiote and maybe feel the freedom to embrace some of her more violent tendencies. I like it when we get to explore a raging She-Hulk a little, and this might just be a way to allow She-Hulk the ability to truly embrace this side of her, learn to be, a little less afraid of it. Or maybe she would just totally freak out. I'm kinda down for either, really.
This is one of the scarier yet most exciting times that a superhero bonded with the Venom symbiote, mainly because it was more than one superhero who had their turn with the psychotic plague. The first host it chose was Groot, and once being knocked into next week by Drax, it evaded attacks until latching onto Rocket Raccoon. With alien-like firearms attached to its terrifying little body, the symbiote attempted to take control of the ship. If that wasn't scary enough for you though, Drax to the rescue again, and upon Drax trying to rip the symbiote off of Rocket, it promptly switches over to the more powerful Drax. Now as Venom Drax, he takes control and flies the ship to the home planet of the symbiotes.
Hailing from Earth -22, this alternate Bruce Wayne had a pretty similar origin to the Caped Crusader that we're all familiar with. However, after an all-out assault from the Joker against Gotham, Bruce completely loses it and just decides to snap the Joker's neck, which caused a mysterious gas to leak from the Joker's mouth into Bruce's body. This led to the mad descent of Bruce's sanity and his transformation into the Joker-Batman hybrid known as the Batman Who Laughs. From then on, he assembled the darkest and most twisted versions of Batman across the dark multiverse and created the Dark Knights in order to wreak havoc on the world. Now I feel like it kinda goes without saying, but the Batman Who Laughs would absolutely be partnered with the Carnage symbiote because they both have this inherently sadistic and twisted nature. The fact that the Batman Who Laughs has the abilities of the Joker and Batman combined makes him scary by itself, but he not only has the know-how to take you down in a scenario, he also lacks the mental stability to just go easy on you. Imagine the psychotic power amplified by the Carnage symbiote's bloodlust. Considering that the Dark Knight death metal event is still going on, we probably already know where to find the Batman Who Laughs, but just in case, check him out in his first appearance in 2017's Dark Days, The Casting #1, and check out Carnage in 1991's Amazing Spider-Man number 345.
Yep, making its first appearance in Venom Lethal Protector #4, this scary looking symbiote is one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes. Donna Diego, a Life Foundation volunteer, bonded with the symbiote and became Scream. Making a fun little appearance in the Venom movie, Donna Diego, a security guard from the Life Foundation, bonded with the symbiote, and she helped the new host deal with their symbiotic merging. I imagine it's not too comfortable to have an alien race inside of your head and swirling around your body. Probably pretty uncomfortable. I thought growing was painful. Ugh. The coolest thing about her is that she uses her hair to fight. Like I said earlier, she is one of the Life Foundation symbiotes and she's pretty unique to watch in action. My hair isn't long enough yet. yet. She's actually pretty similar to Venom. The wall crawling, webs, the camouflage, the whole package. And if you saw the Venom movie, you got a chance to see Donna Diego, played by Michelle Lee, in action. So in the comics, she went pretty much 20 years without actually having a proper name. She didn't don the name Scream until the toy line from Toy Biz dropped the action figure in the 90s, titled Scream. It's a pretty cool looking action figure too, yellow with the red splats. I feel like it for sure scared some kids.
So here's the thing, the Silver Surfer was merged with the symbiote, but not the one that I was hoping for. He ended up bonded to Carnage following a fight with the symbiote in outer space. This caused him to become Cosmic Carnage. Admittedly pretty cool. However, I'm kind of hoping he can help out our symbiote friend Venom. Silver Surfer can easily travel through space with the power Cosmic, which was granted to him as a Herald of Galactus. What I would love to see is him bond with Venom in an effort to take Venom back to their homeworld, Clintar. After all, we did learn that the whole reason for Venom's violent tendencies are mainly due to its own separation issues revolving its banishment or exclusion from its homeworld and its fellow symbiotes. That could be a cute story and a fun adventure for the two to go on together. I would read it.
Frank Castle isn't like your average superhero, but his fair share of heroic deeds earns him a spot on this list. If you weren't scared of the Punisher to begin with, the Venom Punisher will certainly give you chills. In fact, I don't know if there's another character that personality-wise fits better than Frank Castle in the Venom symbiote. Unfortunately, we never were able to delve into too much of what this match made in hell would look like due to its limited run in the Marvel's What If series. Like many of its hosts, the Punisher had trouble trying to keep it under control, but with similar desires he manages and decides to keep it, even though it forced him to have a grudge with Spider-Man that ultimately ended in him being forced out of the suit.
If you saw the Venom movie, then you're familiar with his next symbiote, or symbiote if you only watched the trailer. There aren't too many comic books about Riot, but being the villain of the 2018 live-action film, I can't not include this. Played by Riz Ahmed, Riot can actually contract blades and claws with his powers. He kicks ass, being one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes discovered from a comet. So once obtained, the symbiote attached itself to astronaut John Jameson, and then it eventually found its way to San Francisco when it found Carlton Drake, the CEO of the Life Foundation. The master plan? Well, to bring more symbiotes to Earth and eventually take over the planet. Papa Noah would be so proud. Who's that? He's just the dark god of all Clintars. I'll get into him later on. That is until Venom comes along and saves the day. Spoiler alert. I like Riot. I think he was pretty decent in the movie. Some have even said they prefer this adaptation of Riot over the comic book version. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Fight down below.
The arch enemy of Batman and probably one of, if not the best known villain of all comic book history. His real name and origin are unknown, but one of the most common versions indicates that he fell into a vat of chemicals which turned his skin white and his hair green. Completely unpredictable with no regard for human life whatsoever, the Joker finds murder and general mayhem absolutely hilarious and is probably the most dangerous man on Earth, with a body count stretching into the thousands, all centered around his obsession with the Batman. With his patented Joker Venom, a special deadly poison that infects his victims with a Joker-esque grin as they die while laughing uncontrollably, he has done some absolutely atrocious things in not only Gotham, but around the world. If the Joker were to ever obtain a symbiote, I feel like he would be paired best with Sleeper. Another one of Venom's spawns, not due to the Life Foundation though, don't worry. Sleeper is all about chemicals and poison. Thanks to its unique biology, it possesses chemokinesis, meaning it is able to produce liquid and aerosol chemicals with a variety of effects, including inducing various emotional states, tranquilizing targets, and psychological manipulation. This symbiote would be a perfect way for the Joker to spread his Joker Venom on a much deadlier level. Now, the Clown Prince of Crime has always been a very erratic guy in nature, however, whether it's been in the Arkham games or in the comics, Joker's never really been a physical threat. But with a symbiote and his wild mind, the two would be absolutely unstoppable. Take a look at the insane Clown Prince of Crime for yourself, starting with his first appearance all the way back in 1986's Detective Comics number 569, and check out the Sleeper symbiote in 2018's Venom number 165.
Also an anti-hero, this non-sentient symbiote made its first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 671. Anti-Venom was born at the Feast Center in New York City. So in the New Ways to Die storyline, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote have parted ways, and Eddie Brock has cancer. What a bummer. Martin Lee comes in and saves the day and bam, cures the big C. But in doing so, he infused trace amounts of the leftover Venom symbiote with his white blood cells. Oops! So while that was cooking up inside, Mac Gargan, the Scorpion, who was part of the Thunderbolts, and he was the current host of the Venom symbiote. So this anti-Venom comes along and fuses with him, and it's pretty sweet. Being one of the white blood cells, he actually has the ability to heal people. He can sense if you got something wrong going on inside, like like an ear infection or, I don't know, some more serious disease. He can create antibodies to attack whatever whatever it is. How clutch is that? Flash Thompson actually wore the suit in the storyline too. Super neat.
Once bonding with the Venom symbiote, the Merc with a mouth became known as Venompool, and made us wonder how long it would last before the symbiote couldn't handle living with this superhero host. During a battle over a statue, Deadpool was rescued by the black and white symbiote that was being hunted by the alien bounty hunters Killer Thrill, Guz, and Cold War. Recognizing the symbiote and needing the backup for this fight, Deadpool let the Venom symbiote take over to defeat Danson. Although the Deadpool Back in Black comic books are not the first time this symbiote has latched on to Wade. In Deadpool's Secret Wars, it was revealed that the two have bonded in the 1984 Secret Wars. It's a lot of secrets.
So Sue Storm has actually been bonded to a symbiote before, but only briefly. She found herself bonded to the Venom symbiote after it escaped the Baxter building, where it was being held. It only bonded to her briefly, a few panels was all we got, but I would personally like to see the two remain merged for a touch longer. I want to see if Sue could give the suit her power of invisibility. That combined with its ability to shapeshift could maybe just make the pair the perfect spy. Just imagine how powerful they'd be together. It'd be crazy. It'd be so insane. Move out of the way, Black Widow. Sue Storm symbiote espionage version is coming. That was the clunkiest name I've ever said, I've ever made up on the spot.
Now when I say the Phoenix Force in this case, I basically mean anyone who is its current host. The Phoenix Force, one of the oldest known cosmic entities around, representing life that has not yet been born, as well as the forces of creation and destruction. The Phoenix Force is an immortal, indestructible, and mutable manifestation of the prime universal force of life. It is the nexus of all psionic energy, which does, has, and ever will exist in all realities of the Omniverse. Now at first the Phoenix Force was a formless mass of energy, but a long time ago it came to Earth and met a magician named Farron, who worshipped the legendary Phoenix and whose daydream-like visions prompted the entity to adopt the Firebird form it has today. Other known avatars of the Phoenix have been Rachel Summers, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Colossus, and probably the most well-known, Jean Grey. As an extinction-level threat, the Phoenix Force has complete control over life and death itself, can create concussive force blasts, is immortal, and has atmakinesis, meaning they are capable of creating cosmic-level storms. Partner all of that with the Carnage symbiote, and holy cow, do you have an all-powerful being that will stop at absolutely nothing in their quest to wipe out all of life itself. The Carnage portion would definitely ignore any powers that has to do with resurrection and life, and would only use the raw destructive power of the Phoenix Force. Anyone that acts as a host body for both of these would be way too overpowered, but man, would I love to see it happen one day. We all know of Jean Grey with the Phoenix Force, or like, I'm assuming we do at least, but check it out in its first appearance in 1976's X-Men number 101.
Who wouldn't want to see this, right? Moon Knight is already a pretty violent dude by himself. He's already kind of chaotic, making him both the worst and best fit for a symbiote of his own. A symbiote to call my own. Also, imagine just how much more terrifying this would make him. Far too terrifying. Seriously. The closest we've gotten to this happening was in the video game Spider-Man Web of Shadows, where we got some concept art of him wearing a symbiote in the credits. Though, he never did so in the game, sadly. But we could take that concept art, we could put it in a comic book, and we could make him a symbiotic Moon Knight. Yes. Yes, excellent, excellent.
For real. So back it up way before life and creation, before time and the universe itself. I'm talking way back. Ancient malevolent deities awaited. Once the universe became a thing, Null, the god of darkness, wasn't a fan of the company, and he set out to destroy the Celestials and went to war. So after forging this weapon called the All Black, which is a sword of living darkness, cool, and a Celestial's head, even cooler, after getting his handed to him, he figured out a new plan. He realized he can create symbiotes. What is he doing? Also, sir, can I have one, please? Thank you. So he actually manifested himself a symbiotic suit. Must be nice. And then went after all the gods. Bully. Speaking of bully, Null actually went after the Silver Surfer in Silver Surfer Black. Side note, can we get a Silver Surfer movie like yesterday, please? He eventually arrived on Earth taking on the form of a dragon. Cool entry.
Much like the classic story of Peter Parker being bitten by a radioactive spider, in the Earth 65 continuity, it was Gwen Stacy that followed that path instead. As such, she too was exposed to the Venom symbiote and quickly realized how scary its power was. Gwen had met with Murdoch at Oscorp in hopes of saving her father from being sent to prison. While there, scientist Dr. Elsa Brock had told Gwen she could restore her powers and cure Harry Osborn by exposing the lizard serum to the radioactive spider isotopes. A deal was made to help Harry, but after S.H.I.E.L.D. had sent bounty hunters to capture Harry, he convinced Gwen to break the deal with Murdoch. Eventually, Harry would transform into the lizard, forcing Gwen to team up with the S.H.I.E.L.D. bounty hunters Shadowcat and Logan, and using her isotopes, she turned the lizard serum in Harry's veins into venom. But the symbiote would then jump from host to host before finally bonding with Gwen.
Mephisto is an extra-dimensional demon whose origin is unknown. He rules a fiery pocket dimension that he calls Hell or Hades, although it's neither the Hell of the Christian religion nor the Hades ruled by Pluto, the Olympian god of the dead. As an extremely powerful, immortal, demonic entity, he possesses the ability to use manipulating forces of magic. Mephisto can use his power for a variety of uses, including superhuman strength, shape and size shifting, projecting illusions, manipulating memories, and altering time, and he is also highly resistant to most forms of injuries. Couple this all-powerful demon with the ridiculously powerful Venom symbiote, and you've got a terrifying combination that I would not even want to be on the same planet as. Venom has been seen partnered with so many hosts over the years, and every time he has turned them into these terrifying beasts. I think this demon symbiote pairing would be terrifying and that it should happen at some point, so come on Marvel, just get on it, please. Check out this terrifying villain for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1968's Silver Surfer #3, and of course check out Venom in his first appearance as just an alien costume in 1984's Amazing Spider-Man #252, or just feel free to skip ahead to Venom's first real appearance in 1988's Amazing Spider-Man #299.
In an attempt to find the perfect host for the Venom symbiote, a group decides to bond it with Wolverine, which ends up going sideways real quick. In theory, it's a good assumption that Logan would be the best host. I mean, he's got that healing factor combined with Venom. That could essentially make an immortal symbiote. In the 5-issue alternate reality Edge of Venomverse we mentioned before, Wolverine became much bigger and looked absolutely terrifying as Wolvenom. He was so powerful it would take the force of a nuclear bomb to separate the venomized Wolverine.
What happens when a T-Rex bonds with a Clintar? This big fella. That's what. While some of you might be like, dinosaurs are cool, consider how utterly horrific it would be to come face to face with not only a real-life dinosaur, but one with the bloodlust of a Clintar symbiote. Real-life dinosaur? Okay, sure, count me on board. But one that wants to eat my brains for sustenance? Yeah, might pass on that. There's not a whole lot to say about the Venomsaurus Rex, aside from the fact that it is a symbiote who bonded with a savage T-Rex, and it has made a handful of appearances in the Marvel Universe over the years, including in the Venomverse and in Old Man Logan.
Victor Creed, aka Sabretooth, is likely best known as the longtime enemy of Wolverine. Sabretooth was originally portrayed as a non-powered serial killer, but was later written as a mutant possessing bestial superhuman abilities, most notably a rapid healing factor, razor-sharp fangs and claws, and superhuman senses. He is a vicious assassin responsible for numerous deaths, both as a paid merc and for his own personal pleasure. Now, Wolverine and Sabretooth were participants of the Cold War Super Soldiers program Weapon X, and Sabretooth saw Wolverine as competition and therefore antagonized him. While Wolverine does his best to suppress his more savage qualities, Sabretooth does the exact opposite and just embraces them to the fullest. Now, if Sabretooth were to be paired with any symbiote, I feel like it would be with the Phage symbiote because it honestly feels like a match made in heaven. Phage is, say it with me now, one of the 5 Venom spawns, and its whole thing is creating blades and sharp weapons to slash and stab its opponents, much like Carnage. That doubled with Sabretooth's inherent need to gash and slash his opponents would be absolutely perfect, and I can only imagine just how much damage these two would cause together. Not to mention they both share an orange color scheme, like come on, it is just so perfect.
During the Edge of Venomverse series, we got to explore Venoms from other realities, and in the same complex that was experimenting on X-23, also known as Laura Kinney, they also just so happened to be working on the Venom symbiote. Coincidence? I think not. It was only a matter of time before the two bonded, over their share of long walks on the beach, leading to a massacre that befell anyone attempting to stop Laura from escaping. And after arriving in New York City, this X-23 symbiote became a monster of sorts, the kind that you hear about in urban legends. Even scarier is that Laura, who bears a striking resemblance to Wolverine, actually would give into the symbiote's power.
The symbiote armor was created by Tony Stark, model number 50 to be exact. Making its first appearance in Superior Iron Man Volume 1, the Endo Sim armor is a liquid smart metal that forms around the host's body. It was actually inspired by symbiotes. So he uses the suit to fight you. It wraps around you, but you can't control it or host it. What a tease. The stuff is so strong though, it even held up against Storm, so pretty hard not to throw this one in the mix.